Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Strong Style Stories. I am Joel, bringing you the strong style, but we've got one man who can bring you the story. The one man behind it all. The true casualty of the XFL. It is Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly, welcome.
Welcome, Joel. Thank you very much. It does sound like you're reading a bit of a ransom note there. I hope you're well and you're not being forced to say any of this against your will.
No, I would never say anything against my will, and I look forward to seeing my family eventually.
Very good. I can't say enough good things about episode 1, and all the way from our beautiful theme music, which I think is so fitting, the great Ben Casabianca, all the way through. By the way, he has quite a catalog of music. So if you're on Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, you can hear it all, and he is great.
He's got everything. I went out for dinner with him. He paid on the company credit on the company credit card, though. Very successful gentleman, and I had a really lovely time. And I was telling him about the track because he obviously puts out so much music that I was telling him about the pieces and I said I've kept these bits away, and went, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, I left the guitar solo out because the guitar. Oh yeah, there is a guitar solo, and I was like, so please go listen to Home by Ben Casabianca. It's in the link. I've also linked to his YouTube. He actually spoke to me. He said, would you be interested in me doing some more music for you guys and maybe like scoring it and doing some background stuff and things like that? So we'll see. We might have to get him to do some of the Tanahashi themes for us, I think.
Well, that's what we're going to be talking about here on episode 2. And as the preparation is underway with what's going to be a sold-out Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Kingdom, and the final farewell to the ace of the universe, the once-in-a-century athlete, Hiroshi Tanahashi, we will take a look at, we'll talk about a lot of personal memories that I have with Tanahashi, and some moments in time that I think deserve a review. Because you can just wave a hand across and say, oh, he's won the title 8 times and 3 G1s and list of accolades, but he's so much more than that.
Yeah, there are so many great people that would do a biography of Tanahashi, and I know I will not be bringing that to this, but what I am is someone that has talked to you about it, and I think there are more stories. But when we were going to talk about a very big, important wrestler that's retiring, that you've worked with exclusively, I thought we were doing an episode on John Cena.
Well, we might. No, because this is Strong Style Stories, and this is focusing on my time in New Japan. Now, if we wanted to focus my time on my time in OVW, where I got to work with, then known as the Prototype, and the early days of his career, absolutely, we could do that.
Yeah,
I always found it funny.
That's the only bit of respect. Like, I know this is the generational thing. So when I said that, this is my friend Kevin with John Cena, they immediately went with, who's Kevin with? I don't see anyone there. And I was like, it is basically the long running version of 6-7. I can't see John Cena, but I thought that was quite good fun because we are talking about a lot of big people retiring, and I don't think many people would know that you worked with John Cena because it was in the development. But you got some fantastic stories there, and I thought that would be quite funny because there's clearly two very big superstars that one did it in Japan and one did it worldwide. You could say with John Cena, but predominantly in the States and North America, and I think they are comparable in a lot of ways because they both were probably not expected to achieve. But
well, I mean, if you look at Tanahashi, it took him 3 times trying out just to qualify for the dojo.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
And with Cena, when you look at success in WWE, it's more akin to hitting the lottery. That there's a lot of luck involved because he was going nowhere fast until he did some freestyle rap on the plane coming back from England with Stephanie, and she was in charge of the team of writers at the time, and that was the spark that led to the character that we have seen now, Low, all these years. Here's something funny. So in OVW, the book on John Cena was great athlete, looks fantastic, always prepared, fantastically strong, great mind, fantastic gear. He had matching boots and trunks, Joel, till the cows came home. Every imaginable color. It all looked great. It all looked brand new. And he never wore any of it because he came out in jorts and Air Jordans.
Yeah, you want to talk about strong style. I would say John Cena has a strong style of jorts, and he had the Reeboks with the pumping up thing, but I think we spoke about it. You can't really get as far as you can with a rap gimmick, but you can definitely get your foot in the door, and it worked. And they are very parallel, because if you think about John Cena did rap, and Tanahashi, what a wonderful guitarist. He doesn't even need a guitar. He needs air.
Right. He has played. I mean, we talk about Ben Casabianca being a fantastic guitarist, but I don't think anybody has quite mastered the air guitar as well as Hiroshi Tanahashi. And that signature send-off when Tanahashi gets to close a show, no matter how many times you've seen it, and no matter how, you might, it's been a long night, I want to go home. No, you're going to encore, and they want Tanahashi to do the thing, and he's going to do the thing, and first he's going to say no, and then he's going to say yes, and it's magic every time he does it.
And you want to talk about, the people throwing the beers for Stone Cold Steve Austin. The people, think about the people having to throw those guitars in for Hiroshi Tanahashi, having to throw them and getting through those ropes, Kevin.
And getting through security.
Yeah.
Because again, we're in a different world now.
Yeah.
And you try to bring an air guitar into any, football stadium or a rock concert or something, but who thought first to bring an air guitar? Somebody may have just come from their band's practice, and Tanahashi, who destroyed his previous incarnation of the air guitar, but the fans wanted more. So somebody jumped up and said, "My goodness, I happen to have an air guitar right here, sir."
I read on the sheets that's how he did his cardio. He would play air guitar for 8 hours a day. That's what the sheets are saying.
The sheets.
I've done one podcast. I've done one podcast. I already talk about the sheets.
He's already got the inside lingo. Speaking of which, I want to thank everybody. Both Joel and I want to thank everybody who made the first episode of Strong Style Stories with Kevin Kelly so very successful. And we're really looking forward to our partnership. And again, if you want to know where we can be found, how we can be found, how you can get a direct link to it, of course you could search Strong Style Stories, but you can also go to Podcast Heat. And Podcast Heat is sort of the kind of the nerve center where you can find all the great shows that are offered there on the website. So we're very excited about that. But Joel, I wanted to ask you, as a longtime fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, since, Tanahashi was already immersed as the champion, we're talking, let's say your fandom goes back solidly a good 10, 12 years. What does Tanahashi's retirement mean to you as a fan?
It does mean it feels very much end of era. It does feel like oh, am I an adult now? Because I'm an adult. But the man's got immaculate hair, and he's still. I know he doesn't. The thing is, his stuff is so good. You will compare him to a man in his early 30s to a man in his mid to late 40s, which is just incredibly unfair with the amount of injuries he's had. But still, he is so charismatic. I've seen him live in York Hall a couple of times, and it is very, very special. There is something very special about that man that I don't think enough mainstream. Well, I will say, okay, WWE care about stars, because this man is a star, and he is someone that can completely change the business. And yeah, he means absolutely the world, because he brought me some of the best matches you could possibly imagine seeing. Obviously, we'll talk about Okada. Um, I figured you may ask me what my favorite is. I genuinely have thought about it all week, knowing that we're doing Tanahashi, and I still don't know. And they've had a lot, but they are all at such a high level. And you pretty much were there for all bar one, but even then you went back and called it
I
with
get,
Gino.
yeah, I get very wistful about this, and again, there are direct correlations between John Cena and Hiroshi Tanahashi. If you think about what John Cena, the time that he came along in the WWE was post Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin on the, winding down phase. And of course, there were other stars, but the machine needed somebody new. The machine needed the next Bret Hart, the next Hulk Hogan, the next Stone Cold, the next Rock. And it came from a very unlikely place. I think if you asked Jim Cornette, who saw Cena very up close during OVW, he would say, yes, he has everything that a top guy needs. But Cena's work ethic, the inside stuff, the stuff you can't measure, that's what propelled him. And you can look at Tanahashi. And Hiroshi Tanahashi grew up a fan, took him 3 times to be accepted in the dojo. Then when he was accepted, they immediately recognized his talent. And they started to give him a push. And then he got stabbed and nearly died. So we'll
And
talk
that's
about
something
that.
that, yeah, that's
Yeah.
something that I don't think people really consider, that he it was as serious as it can get, from what I gather. And again, you kind of have to take things with a pinch of salt, because it was a different time, it was different sort of media outlets and different sort of reporting. And you're like, if someone goes, Tanahashi got stabbed, and you're like, what? Are you trying to find things to verify? You know, I didn't have the greatest anti pop up material back then.
In some of the, I could see, God forbid that this would have happened during my time in New Japan. I could see Chris Charlton and I getting together and doing a special news update for English speaking fans, for Japanese speaking fans, for everybody, with news and updates on the health condition of Hiroshi Tanahashi. So he starts in 99. And it's always funny to me that when they said who should be his last opponent, I was like, Togi Makabe, because that was his first opponent.
Yeah.
And where and again, they had a link. Everybody says, oh, the link is with Okada. Well, yeah, sure. But the first link was with Togi Makabe. He and Makabe coming out of the dojo, but Makabe a little bit senior. And Makabe gets the win in Tanahashi's first match. Some young lions, it takes them forever to get a win. Tanahashi match 3. So that's how good he was. But he couldn't beat Makabe. 20 times they wrestled. And it was in that 20th time that he finally beat Makabe. And they exchanged, there were battles over the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And there were signature moments, of course, in each man's career. But so you look there at the beginning, how it got started. And I remember seeing the footage with Inoki, and he being and Tanahashi being the one to speak, to represent the next generation. And you're like, okay, cool. There was also, and I had forgotten about this, that Scott Hall put him over in 2001. And
Yeah,
Scott
it was
Hall
very early on.
Yeah, Scott Hall told the story that wasn't what was called. The finish was Scott Hall up. But he knew that Tanahashi was the money, and he knew that he would get more, and Tanahashi would get more out of beating Scott Hall than Scott Hall beating Tanahashi. Scott Hall
And that's
knew
smart.
exactly how good
Yeah.
Tanahashi was. And, so you could say whatever you want, the historians or whatever, people who worked with him could say whatever you want about Scott Hall. But that guy had a head for the business unlike any other. And knew it.
He had weirdly just he like some of the stories just once he got sober you could kind of feel like fun because he's so good at winding people up, so good at, and I don't mean winding people up as in the fan base. I do actually mean sort of what he would say to other people. And
He was gonna do what he was gonna do.
yeah,
And
and
that
also
type of
still
thing.
took he took a great stunner against Steve Austin. Like
Of course he did.
if he wanted to, he could do it. And I completely forgot that I knew that they faced each other. It's one of those things where you're like, it's like Bizarro World where you don't expect it. But yeah, absolutely fantastic that he saw it, and I because he would have been in the. I don't think there were too many people that were talking about him in Tanahashi. That is in 2001. I feel like it was he really came into sort of the mid 2000s because it was all from my point. It was all 01 Pro Wrestling Noah. It was all sort of that side from Japan, and New Japan kind of was compartmentalized a little bit.
And let's remember, so in that era, as Inoki is winding down, right, and has the retirement match, and he doesn't have the same zip on the fastball, Joel, as they would say. And fans were beginning to tune away in the early 2000s. The crossovers attempting to utilize, MMA fighters as wrestlers as MMA fighters. Bold moves that didn't work. And Noah on the come up, I think, supplanted New Japan as the number one company in Japan, the spin-off of All Japan, the mutiny, if you will. Anyway, it was a changing time in Japanese wrestling. Baba had lost his grip on the talent of All Japan, and then his passing and everything that happened after that. Same thing with Inoki. Those legends going away, who's going to fill the bill? And I think everybody was looking at Keiji Muto. Everybody was looking at Masahiro Chono. But kind of like John Cena, there was the guy right before their eyes, right in front of them. And it was Hiroshi Tanahashi.
And interestingly, I've got Chris Charlton's book in front of me, and I highlighted it because you touched on Muto.
This is his wonderful book called Lion's Pride, which is available on Amazon.
So, and he wrote a little bit about Tanahashi. Being a devotee of and endorsed by Tatsumi Fujinami is already a highly pressured position to be in when making your first forays onto the main card in New Japan. Being branded a new musketeer, and we'll get into that because that has plagued a lot of, well, I say a lot, it's 3 at a time, but it's plagued.
You can't, it's hard to have 3 musketeers that are more than 3. You know what I mean? Like the Beatles could not have been the 3 musketeers. It just wouldn't have worked. And who would be left out?
Well, Ringo, but yes.
George.
Whoa, slander.
Listen, if you rank the Beatles in terms of importance, you got Paul, you got John, and then you got Ringo.
That.
Oof. Personalities.
Personality. Yeah, George's personality was. If we're going on personality, George's was a little bit dry.
Yeah.
But
let's look at the dojo, the New Japan dojo, okay, as the epicenter of all of this. And when I say this, I mean the past, the present, and the future.
Yes.
As we go back to the early days, of course, the formation, the foundation, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all the guys that came up. let's look at the class of 84. In the class of 84, you had Jushin Thunder Liger, you had Keiji Muto. There were some others. Who else was in that class?
I'll get it out. I'll find it. No, you carry on.
Okay, but you're looking at one of the greatest recruiting classes ever, with main stars that were incredibly valuable to New Japan and the entire world of professional wrestling. And the
wow. So yeah, you were right. Shinya
was it
Hashimoto.
Hashimoto and Chono in the class of 84?
Yeah, Nugami, it was Akira, and Funaki, who less so. But that's a hell of a first. Do you know what? I knew this, but I didn't know it in the fact that it's one of those facts that are there, but you kind of have to read it in order to believe it, because you are talking about, you can't really talk about Three Musketeers there. You talk about everyone was incredibly important. And I've actually seen quite a lot of this was, so Excursion still happened, and Liger came over and worked the mid-80s world of sport, and people that I know from that era have said, yeah, he was really just humble and quiet. And if you take that from the dojo system, that's kind of how they're trained, and then the personality comes out. But that class of 1984, when you see it there, and the people that have come out of it and made such a big deal, they all touch on pretty much every piece of pro wrestling history for the next 30, 40 years.
Exactly. And when you talk about Tanahashi, you don't talk about him in terms of an excursion.
No.
Because there really wasn't one. There were forays, there were trips over to Mexico, and there were trips in other places. But I think business was in, and I've never heard this directly from anybody, but I can, put one and one together and come up with two. Business is down, and we need homegrown stars, and we can't afford to be sending guys to here, there, and everywhere to learn their trade, to learn every aspect of professional wrestling, and then to come back from being a young lion as this refined, finished piece. They needed them to learn on the job, in the main roster, fighting for their lives, so to speak, every single night. That was the story of the new Three Musketeers, which was Shinsuke
Nakamura,
Nakamura, Katsuyori Shibata, and Hiroshi Tanahashi.
And Shibata gets forgotten in that, and it's why in that sort of, I would call it the New Japan World era of New Japan, the Shibata story was so important, and we'll probably do an episode on Shibata, because obviously there's the wrestler, my favorite wrestler, and someone that I absolutely love. But I loved him because I watched Pro Wrestling Noah.
Right. But there were three, so you had the new Three Musketeers, but all three of them faced critical junctures in their careers at a very early state. Katsuyori Shibata quit New Japan. He quit
to make money.
He said, and it's quoted in the book, he said he didn't want to be a salaryman wrestler. He didn't want to be just another guy on the card who was under contract for New Japan his whole career. He wanted to experience wrestling life. Okay. For Shinsuke, it was 24 years old, and they smash him over as the new IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Okay. And this was still where Inoki saw him as this blended fighter, sort of the full piece, if you will, the full complement, array, arsenal, whatever word you want to use. He had the mixed martial arts background, had the wrestling grappling background, and had the modern style, so he could combine all three. The piece that he didn't have at that time aside from maturity as a pro, the support of the locker room, support of the office, he didn't have the swag. He didn't develop his style until later on.
And it's hard. It's hard for you to develop that style when you are going from pro wrestling to MMA, and then you're doing a camp, because this is one of the things that UFC fans have had issues with, is the fact that personalities don't really draw. They're not really. Everyone just does the same. It's like, well, I went into camp for 6 months, I dieted, I was miserable, and now I want to punch someone's face in. It's a very limited movement, whereas Shinsuke has all of this in him that we later see, but it doesn't come out, and it can't come out because you're doing MMA.
But then you're also on the cards every night.
Yes.
What do you do? All of a sudden come out with a new costume? No, he had to slowly morph into this. He had to slowly grow into the supernova, because he was the super rookie.
Yeah.
He was the phenom. And it was too much, too soon, too physical a style, got hurt, didn't work. Okay? He was still dressing as a young lion. Shinsuke Nakamura was still dressing in the hall.
Yeah.
He had short hair. He was still dressing as a young lion in the hall when he went over for the belt. It was a complete shock to everybody in the locker room, and it did not get over at all. At all. But at this time, you had a locker room full of disgruntled wrestlers. You had everybody who knew better, who had a better idea, who wanted to do something else, who didn't like the direction of where things were going. And now all of a sudden you put the rookie over, you put the kid over for the belt? This company's gonna die. All right.
And it nearly did. Well, it nearly did. But again, it's the perception is it's died because they put it on a rookie, but really it died because of some, as everything does with interesting business decisions. You know, you talk about your era with Crockett. You bought a couple of jets, and that's the thing that labelled the downfall of that, and
left the Southeast.
Yeah, and because you're a face that's on TV and you're wrestling, you're then earmarked as the person that failed. But there's loads of stuff going on in the background. You know, he wasn't involved in the uke still. Like he wasn't signing that, but you know, he was heavily involved, and you do get tired with just being the face of a company, even though you've got no control over it, and it's hard, especially at that young age.
Okay. And so now, all right, so two of the three, it's not going to work. And then with the third one, with Tanahashi, you've got kind of everything pinned on him, let's say, at one point or another. Well, he gets stabbed. Now, how did he get stabbed? Famous story. He was dating a Japanese newswoman. And it's much different than the way news presenters are here in the States. You don't have local markets. It's all national television, okay? So when you are one of the news presenters on one of these three networks, you have a lot of eyeballs on you, and you get to be known pretty well, pretty fast. Well, I guess it was kind of kept quiet that she was dating a pro wrestler. And all of a sudden, the report comes out that Tanahashi has been stabbed and rushed to the hospital. And come to find out that it was this woman newsreader who didn't like getting the notice, Joel. Tanahashi said, "We're finishing you up and you're leaving the territory." And
gave notice.
Gave her the notice.
2 weeks.
And she didn't like it. And so she, invaded poor Tanahashi and almost killed him. The funny thing, she admitted to it, right? I did it. And somehow only got probation. I don't know. I'm one that's like, okay, she shouldn't have been stabbed, but the punishment needs to fit the crime, okay?
Yeah, just so you know that it was 4 years probation.
Yeah, 4 years. probation.
Charged with attempted murder. And it was 4 years probation.
Yeah.
And
so anyway, okay. So the clock with Tanahashi stops. Okay. And this was explained to me by Steve Corino. He says, Kevin, you won't understand what it was like. But he was there at the time. He's in Japan.
2002.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tanahashi is getting really over as the former Young Lion, now on the main roster, now starting to represent this new guard that was coming up, that was going to challenge the Chonos and the Tenzans, etc., and was going to be the guy who was going to lead this company, fans thought, into the new era. Well, then all of a sudden, news comes out that he's stabbed, and he's on death's door, and he misses months and months. I think he came back and I think he was out 8 months.
Well, no. So apparently, it was the incident happened November 2002, and he came back in February 2003.
Oh, okay. I thought it had happened earlier.
Yeah, well, that's why I looked it up, because I was like, no, these things in my mind don't match up. You know, I'm old and whimsical, so I can't remember.
He's away for 4 months. Now, in those days, fans, listeners, dear listeners, in those days there was no Wrestle Kingdom. Okay, there still was big January 4th show, but there was not that seminal event, that Wrestle Kingdom that we all set our watches to. But you have the same basic kind of calendar. You come out of the tag tournament, heavyweight tag tournament, towards the end of the year, and then you start to move into the New Japan Cup in the newer part of the year. Okay, let's just say that's where we're getting to. We're not there yet, but if you look at the time that Tanahashi missed, he was gone, and every fan that had pinned their hopes to the future of the company on Tanahashi then sees him come back, almost like he came back from the dead 4 months later, like he hadn't even missed a beat.
But
he wasn't thin.
Came back.
He wasn't thin. He wasn't. He didn't miss a step. He was every bit the star that he was before. Was he still hurt? Yes. Was he physically right? No.
And do you know who they gave him for his return match?
Was it Togi Makabe?
No, it was stiffer.
Who was it? Sugiura?
No, Manabu Nakanishi.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so
he would be running. Basically, you're going from being stabbed to running into a man mountain.
Right, and his history with Nakanishi, of course, would continue on, and a surprise change of the belt. But
yes,
that was later on.
Yeah, and just to give an idea on a timeline, so if he was stabbed in November 2002, if I remember rightly, he was in a tag team. Kenzo Suzuki, I want to say.
Kenzo Suzuki, right? He had some tag success. With he had already won the tag belts once, and Kenzo Suzuki, the two of them were starting to get hot together, and then all of a sudden, time stops, boom, and then Tanahashi comes back, and he's this megastar. And Corino said it's not like he could quantify it. It's not like he could say, here's the reason why. He even said, Kevin, it was inexplicable. It was like all the news coverage of this terrible domestic situation helped New Japan Pro Wrestling's business. So when we talk about all the ways that Tanahashi saved New Japan, one of the ways that he saved New Japan, he literally almost gave his life. And upon his return from this terrible situation, was a megastar. And that was where the journey for Tanahashi truly began. His excursion, Joel, was in a hospital bed.
Yeah, yeah. His excursion started when he was trying to break it off, apparently in her own apartment, and I mean, I think that says quite a lot about the man of Tanahashi, where he was looking to do the right thing and break something off in person and be this man, and he got stabbed for it, but he came back and again didn't miss a beat despite clearly being in pain. But in that 2003 run, we saw something which I thought was a bit of a fever dream, which was this under 30 open weight championship.
Exactly. We always
That
look back in the history books and we talk about championships that Tanahashi has won. But here we are, this U30, the again another youth movement title, Joel. They've tried this so many dang times. Well, this time they did get the ages right. And this was
yeah, they
Tanahashi
didn't kayfabe
finally.
the ages. Yes.
Yeah, this was Tanahashi finally getting over on Togi Makabe.
And it was a championship that was like that some of they knew that Chono couldn't get hold of, and a couple of the old guard couldn't get hold of, and
Yeah.
it was fresh. And it came up in my social media feed a couple of months ago, maybe even just a month ago. Back in sort of November time, where you see a very young, fresh Brian Danielson against a Tanahashi, and I think that meant quite a lot to Tanahashi because he knew Brian was trained by Shawn Michaels, and I think it's been on record that Tanahashi says that he's his favorite wrestler. Shawn Michaels is, so you've got all these things that are just sort of linked together, and then when you hear that Tanahashi was a big fan of Shawn Michaels, when you look at his career and how they worked, it makes sense in a lot of ways because again, showmanship, charisma, great matches.
Yes. He was every bit the equivalent to a Shawn Michaels when it came to athleticism, selling, all of the moves. He did moves again that other New Japan wrestlers had not done. It was a style, especially for the heavyweights, that was not a common one, or in some respects, a popular one. A lot of New Japan heavyweight style stand, brawl, suplex, right? That's sort of the meat and potatoes.
Yes.
But what Tanahashi was doing is he was moving and flying, and he's doing this at 230 pounds. And again, why is Tanahashi in the physical state that he's in now? Was it one injury? No, it was not. It was wear and tear from
The build up.
being that muscular, wrestling big heavyweights like they had in Japan, and taking all those bumps, and it takes its toll.
And flying as well.
Flying, exactly. That's what I mean.
If
that type of style.
well, yeah, I mean we know the high flow, etc. But if you look at his early days with the sling blade, he's getting up pretty high to deliver it and then landing, and you're like, this guy is just movement and momentum and just absolute, like, giving it his all. And I think that's the thing that through the conversation about Tanahashi, I think you have to understand that I know that, sometimes he doesn't give his all. It's tag matches. It's, you had House Show Kenny, there's House Show Tana for sure. But
I disagree. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, but what I was going to say is, I don't think anyone in the crowd felt that. That you see it when people. Well, I think it's because when New Japan World started airing everything, but I've never seen it myself. It's just what people have said and read, and nope, I don't think so. Because he worked the match that the people needed or wanted to see, rather than
the position on the card.
Yeah,
but there was never.
Perfect.
He never came out in a T-shirt. He never came out.
Oh,
you know what I mean? You got the full
yeah.
presentation, Tanahashi.
Yes.
Whether you're in an A town, Tokyo, Osaka, or you're in a B town, or you're in a C town, doesn't matter. You got Tanahashi, okay? And if he's in a big match in any of those towns, and it may be like, say, a New Japan Cup match, it might be a G1 match. One of my favorite matches of Tanahashi was that January 31st match. I can't remember the year, but it was against oh my gosh, I've just gone blank. Help me. The
I
Dragon,
can't.
Shingo Takagi.
Shingo.
In
Because I didn't know which year. I didn't know
but
how
that
far
was
back you
that
were
was
going.
Nagoya. So that was a Nagoya match, and it was the main event. And oh my God, this was post third G1. I think it was 21 or 22. This match was.
Yeah, it
And
would have been when is that Shingo's run with the championship?
the Never Belt. And
Never
then
felt okay.
at the end of Tanahashi winning, going over Oka from behind, the Great
Yeah,
Okarn, right?
and they had to and that was at a time where they really were trying to they were trying to elevate the Never title to sort of headline shows,
And it
and
could,
Tanahashi did it. So
yeah,
Shingo did it, but
yeah,
Tanahashi
definitely
really did
could,
it.
definitely did. And Tanahashi was there for all of it. So that's like a big championship memory that I have of him. And it wasn't the greatest match ever, but I just remember the effort and the way that he willed himself. I will give you, this is what a day in the life, a wrestling day in the life of Hiroshi Tanahashi is like. Okay. Just like everybody else, he arrives at the dojo. Just like everybody else, he gets on a bus and he goes to the town. As soon as he gets to the building, though, is where the work begins. And that's where they begin to wrap his knees. And by the time they get done wrapping him and stretching him and TENS unit, put the TENS unit on the knees, whatever is needed, 45 minutes to an hour later. Okay. Now we always get to the building 3 hours before bell time. That's how it works. So if bell time is 6, we arrive at the building at 3. And if we have a 4-hour bus ride, that means we leave at 11. And throw a half an hour in that. You might say 10 from the dojo. 10:30, they're coming to pick us up. We stop for lunch and we go to the town. And as soon as we get to the town, Tanahashi starts getting his knees put together for the night. This is whether he's in a 6 or 8-man, 10-man underneath, doesn't matter, or he's in the main event. This is what he does. Then after the match, it's ice and it's unwrapping the knees and it's beginning the maintenance that needs to happen for the next day. And the next day could be, let's just say, another bus ride. Because if we have an off day, we travel on the off day to get to the next town. There are a lot of times where I would see the trainer and I would, chat with him quickly in the hotel and, oh, Daijoubu, is everything okay? Yeah, Tanahashi. He's going to Tanahashi's room to do some physiotherapy on Tanahashi's knees. And he's got a whole bag of stuff with him. You know what I mean? Just trainer supplies that he's bringing with him from whatever floor he's staying on, going up to Tanahashi's room. This is on an off day. Now, I'll give you the other side of the coin. And this is a conversation that Tanahashi and I had. And we talked about a lot of different stuff. Tanahashi's English is pretty good. And it was enough to where he could conversate with me, and he enjoyed talking with me. He probably enjoyed talking with other people as well in English as an effort to try to work on his English. we're having a conversation about being married because Tanahashi's married.
Yeah.
And this was not the woman who stabbed him, by the way, nor was he, this was post stabbing. And we talk about, I said, what's it like when you go home? You say, wife, I am Ace of New Japan. I am Hiroshi Tanahashi. Please go make me a sandwich. And he says, no. My wife says, here, do the laundry. Here, take care of the dog. Here, clean this up. He has chores when he gets home. So, Hiroshi Tanahashi, for all of his stardom, Joel, for all the great things that he has done, for the amazing run that he has had through his entire career, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Joel, is just like you and me. He's beaten down by a wife who's relentless.
There is nothing that Togi Makabe and Nakanishi could do that his wife hasn't already done to him emotionally.
Exactly.
He's a beat down man.
Exactly.
The biggest signature move that will put you under forever is the thumb of a wife.
Exactly.
And I'm glad he's under it too. But that's one of those things where you said that you went out for I think in early days of us talking, you said, I've just gone out for something to eat with Tanahashi. And I went, firstly, the first thing I do is ask who paid. And then when you say Tanahashi, I mock you, saying, you're the older statesman. You were there in the Attitude Era. This poor man got stabbed by a former love. But you were saying what a great guy and what a great conversation it was. And I think that's something that says a lot more about the man. But the one that I think when you think about opponents for Tanahashi, I remember AJ Styles, Giant Bernard, Kojima, Nagata.
Yeah, 06.
All those.
Well, 06 was the first meeting with AJ. Correct.
But the one that really sort of secured it for me was actually the match with Kurt Angle, which I think Kurt Angle's New Japan, not really a run, but a couple of matches, were excellent. And it really made me think. I was like, well, Tanahashi went toe to toe with Kurt. This is absolutely fantastic. And I was like, I remember at the time I was like, this is the closest I'd ever see Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle, because I was comparing Tanahashi to his style at the time was very sort of Bret Hart like, but
very good comparison with the way that he valued the fans.
Yes,
and making sure that the fan got their money's worth, and just the same way Bret would try to get up close and personal with every fan that he could as he's leaving ringside, as he's coming down. That was Tanahashi as well. So yes, Tanahashi, huge fan of Shawn Michaels' in-ring style, but took a lot of what Bret Hart did outside the ring and incorporated that.
Just with you could see it throughout his entire run was those damn Go Ace towels that would get thrown at him. He'd dab his head and then throw it back. I think that is a little bit different.
See, the sweat of Tanahashi, and this is medical science, Joel. This is medical science proven that the sweat of Tanahashi has anti-aging properties, not dissimilar to the fountain of youth that was discovered by Ponce de Leon in the 1500s in St. Augustine, Florida. It's
been put in a pill, and Dr. Zahorian is selling it.
Yes. But let's talk about, so why Tanahashi? Tanahashi was not somebody who would fall victim to the whims of the booker. Because back in those days, you had Riki Choshu and you had Masahiro Chono. Push and pull and push and pull, and Chono gets the belt. Chono wins the G1, or it would be Tenzan, because that was, you know what I mean? And it kept going back and forth and back and forth. And because there was a logjam at the top, there was this ceiling, wasn't even glass, it was firm cement, and nobody was getting above that.
No one was getting out the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was a very difficult time politically, and that's not really something that modern wrestling fans are used to, because since the death of the territories, you really didn't have wrestler as booker. And this was still, things were done that same way in New Japan. Let's take a modern example, modern-ish example, Jerry Lawler in Memphis. The two top guys in Memphis were Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. And they would trade the book back and forth, meaning they would book the matches that the fans would see in the arenas and on TV. And you knew when Lawler was booking because there would be 30 guys on the card, and Lawler would be fighting the Mummy, and there was all this craziness. But when Dundee had the book, you had 16 guys on the card, and it was a lot less nonsense. So Lawler's houses would draw, but Lawler's payroll was higher. Dundee's houses probably made the promotion more money, even though the events themselves were not spectacular sellouts with all this grandiose flair craziness, right? And there was a professional, personal animosity between Lawler and Dundee, but they could do business with each other. They drew tons of money together. They had memorable matches against each other. You had the same thing in New Japan. You think Riki Choshu and Masahiro Chono liked each other? Professionally, probably not.
No.
Because they kept pulling it, and Tatsumi Fujinami was another one in there. And he was just being buffeted back and forth, and
he was in the middle.
He was in the middle, and you couldn't win. There was a no-win situation. And that's why there was such turmoil, and there wasn't one firm voice, and there wasn't Gato.
And we did talk about this when we get into it, and I was like, Tanahashi was presented like a star when Gato got the book, and so my fandom is completely down to Gato, and that's very hard for me to say, because that son of a bitch
that
son of a bitch, he did that to Okada with the Jay White as a switchblade.
Put that belt away, strapping him, whipping him like a dog. But we don't listen. Not a lot of people talk about that, but and we can do multiple episodes on what Gato has meant to New Japan Pro Wrestling since he took the book. The biggest thing that he did is he brought a steady hand. Now, like I said, Tanahashi was always impervious to this. He had like a, Matrix-like quality to swat away the bullets and rose above any political turmoil. He didn't take sides. He was master of it all, okay? Inside the ring and outside the ring. It didn't matter who had the book. It didn't matter who was fighting with whom. It didn't matter what the political climate was. Tanahashi was able to rise above it. Now, you also had, of course, Keiji Muto. Big influence, leaves and then comes back. Tanahashi had to get past Muto. And that was where, in the post-Keiji Muto era, their matchup at Wrestle Kingdom,
Kingdom 3.
Yep,
so
Tanahashi wins
2009.
The end of that era. It all goes away, and Gato, Jado, they take over, and they start booking.
The big thing about that is he became the 50th IWGP heavyweight champion.
Exactly.
And New Japan liked numbers like that, because it wasn't traded back and forth. It wasn't like this. We're building up to give him the 50th. The fact that he was, and he got that and gone on, it meant something. It's another accolade. But I do have a visitor here, and I want to share because I have a visitor. Here we go.
Oh yeah, Now,
It
for
is
those of you
now. This
not
is the
watching on
great
YouTube,
Muta.
and not those of you who are
No,
not watching this, you're listening to the podcast version. What Joel has just presented, ladies and gentlemen, is a rare collectible, and that would
yes,
be the Great Muta.
it's the great Muta with the white and black. So this is the chase. So it's a WWE Ultimate Edition, and it's the chase. And I really like Keiji Muto in the white and black. And also the reason why I've shown it to people on YouTube, but also now the audio. The good folks listening in. It means it's tax deductible. So I've kept the receipt. So it's now an expense of the business.
Very shrewd.
So yeah, shrewd businessman I am. Always willing to give tax advice, despite the fact not ever taking an accountancy exam. But the great
I think
Muta
you can I don't think you should dispense tax advice here. I don't think so, Joel. I think that that would be bad.
for entertainment purposes only.
Ah,
Is
okay.
that there you go. They do the
If
same
we're
with gambling.
if we're going to, yes, for entertainment purposes only, folks. Yes, if you have a business and you purchase something for the business, you can write that expense off, uh, on your taxes. It's a stretch to say that that the Great Muda collectible action figure is indeed a write-off for this business of ours that's in its infancy, episode 2 and all. But nevertheless, I think
Yes.
that this is for entertainment purposes only. I think somebody's on that roller coaster behind you. My God. Um, but
Yeah.
so Tanahashi, of course, made history by being in the main event of the first Wrestle Kingdom. And
Yeah, who was it
yeah,
against? That's a
wasn't
very.
it against Shinsuke Nakamura?
Was that was Wrestle Kingdom 2.
Was it 2?
Yeah, Wrestle Kingdom 2. It was the main event. Nakamura defeated Tanahashi. That was also the one where Kurt Angle defeated Nagata as well, which is also a really, really underrated Wrestle
Yeah,
Kingdom
you
match.
got to be a knower and a doer of things.
Yeah.
But again, that was again, it seems like forever ago. It was 20, literally,
2008.
yeah, 20 Wrestle Kingdoms, right? That's where we are now.
Yeah.
And he was in the main event of the first 3, and on and
And
on and on and on and on.
and do you think about that third? I would suggest that the third one is probably the passing of the torch with Muto.
Yes.
And also the fact that Tanahashi is, I think, one of the greats of being able to take something from things that he's learned. And a very important part of your job was not just calling the moves and you, saying what they're putting in and doing the near falls, etc. You are saying, why does he do that dragon screw? Why does he do this and that? It's a nod to and Tanahashi must have been sort of prime real estate for you with that, because he was just so clever with what he would add to his arsenal, depending on who he beat.
You had Fujinami influence, you had Keiji Muto influence. He took something from everybody.
Yes.
When anybody discusses the growth of a New Japan wrestler, and this could be for other companies as well, but for our purposes here, we're going to be talking about New Japan wrestlers. They take something from each opponent and carry it on with them when they finally vanquish the foe. And it could be something that they use all the time, like the Dragon Screw Leg Whip. It could be something that they tap into only every once in a while. The only violent feud, really, that Tanahashi had, well, early in his career, he had a violent feud that was blown off in
With
a
his
cage.
ex-girlfriend.
No, that was separate.
That was very violent. Yeah.
But in his main roster run, in his main run, was Toru Yano.
And that might shock people as well. And it's one of those things where with Tanahashi, you don't necessarily talk violence. It does feel very professional wrestling. Like it doesn't feel like it doesn't. He feels like pro wrestling, but when you go back and you think about the Yano and the fact that they're on friendly terms, um, considering they nearly killed each other. The thing
That was
is, there was
right.
the big arc that was told over time, and they didn't just suddenly go, "Oh, you hate Bullet Club too, or you hate Chaos too. You're leaving Chaos, like come, like whatever." They still took time for it to heal.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. And the let's remember too that this is in now the early days of the newly minted Chaos faction that in the wake of the demise of Great Bash Heel, where the only two remaining members was Makabe and Honma, and they were absorbed by Hontai, by the home team. All the other members of Great Bash Heel, with Nakamura as the leader, became Chaos. Okay, and at this time, Kazuchika Okada is not in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's not
no,
there yet. All right.
and just saying, sometimes you do pick sides. You do pick your faction. Obviously, not you, because you are a impartial journalist, calling the action down the middle, no doubt. But I leaned Chaos,
Of
and I
course you
had
did.
arguments with Damon McDonald from the J-Cast because he kept saying Chaos is a heel faction, and I just said no, Chaos is just a misunderstood faction.
Well, that's what a heel is.
Yeah,
A
they were
heel wants to
misunderstood.
be right. A heel wants to be loved. They're just misunderstood by the fans. It's the fans' fault. And
Exactly.
and when you represent Hontai, when you represent the home team, when you represent the good guys in New Japan Pro Wrestling, you wrestle a certain way.
Yes, you
You
do.
wrestle you wrestled the way the the predecessors did. So you even though you are being abused by rule breakers, you do not go and break the rules. You
If the
win,
referee goes down, you do check on the referee to
right?
make sure that the ref you it's not a case of I've hit the referee, I must look and see what my opponent's doing. It is, oh my god, I need to check on this, and it's like it's like Good Samaritans, but
Yes.
with Chaos, it was very
And
much like a we don't care.
when you have and for Americans, for American wrestling fans, for Western wrestling fans, let's say, it's a little bit tough to stomach because they look like saps a lot of times. Why are
Yeah,
they doing this? Why don't they just well, because they don't. You see, because when you accept the responsibility of carrying the generations past on you, remember what we said the epicenter of all of this was? The New Japan Dojo. Okay. It
yes,
goes
yeah.
back to the roots of what everything around the logo means. Antonio Inoki would fight fire with fire and he would fight back. But ultimately, it was his skill as a professional wrestler that allowed him to overcome various foes, whether he was fighting different styles of fighting all over the world, or he was being mauled by the Sheik or Tiger Jit Singh or Russia Kimura or any of these villains, or he's being bludgeoned by Stan Hansen, Hulk Hogan, whomever. All of these great foes brought something to Inoki. He took everything, he took something from all of them. And from time to time, he would need to delve in, dive in, grab that, use it. Okay. So that's the modus operandi of Tanahashi. That's his mindset. And when a wrestler knows who they are, Joel, and what they fight for, now it starts to explain everything that they do in the ring. Never once did Tanahashi stray from that. They talk about Ricky Steamboat never turning heel. They talk about Sting never turning heel. Tanahashi never turned heel either. Now, did
In New
Tanahashi
Japan,
in New Japan,
yeah, but he
when New
went.
Japan would go to when Tanahashi would go to other companies, he gladly wore the black hat because
Oh
he was
yeah,
the outsider.
but I'm the superstar from the big promotion. what am I doing here? I know he did some stuff with DDT when Kota Ibushi was there, and he was trying to claw some of the talent in, I think. And I remember finding a way to watch it because, again, it wasn't particularly easy to find back then. And I found a way, and I loved the fact that he would just get on the second rope and look out, and he would do he would do what he would do in New Japan, but do it in this sort of. You could tell it was a bit of a release for him, because it must be exhausting to be that guy. But I can't think of anyone that has, like, it's one of these things that, yes, it is very much a closed circuit, with the wrestlers and what gets out and stuff. But Tanahashi's one of the guys that, for such a long career and for such politics that he's clearly had to negotiate, I don't think there's a bad word that's been said.
Well,
So
hang on, because we're going to get to some bad words that have been said about Tanahashi. And it's a very small group. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in a moment. But I want to get 1 point in. So Tanahashi is famous for all of his victories, but he's also famous in defeat. Tanahashi is the last wrestler to have lost the IWGP Heavyweight Championship at Korakuen Hall. And he lost it to Manabu Nakanishi. Here's the story as I had heard it. They were going to do this match where they already had the title match booked for Osaka. That was going to be the big Dominion, whatever the event was called. That was going to be the Osaka summer show. It was going to be Nakanishi versus Tanahashi for the belt. So they were probably going to do some sort of DQ, some sort of disputed finish, double count out, blah, blah, blah. And the story that I've heard is that Tanahashi came to the building and said, let's put Nakanishi over. Let's give him the belt. And then we can go do the rematch in Osaka. It'll mean a lot to Nakanishi. It'll mean a lot to the product. It'll mean a lot to everybody who's followed him through the years. It'll mean a lot because it'll mean a lot. And that's what they did. And it was a shock. Oh my gosh, it was a shock. Because Nakanishi wasn't that guy. He was still awesome, but he was never going to be that guy.
It was I know everyone was sort of, the only one that I could think of is Goto, but Goto's the different. Goto feels like he finally got there. It's completely different from that. I don't know. I don't think there is a comparison to him getting the belt at that stage.
No,
it's a very unique. It's a very unique thing, and a very humbling thing to do, but also probably shows you why he's now top of the mountain from a business standpoint, because
yes,
he gets it, because he knew, what's a DQ gonna do to the next house.
Right. You could do things in Korakuen. You could get away with Korakuen. But the thought there at that time, Korakuen Hall, was everybody's watching this. Everybody's seeing this. These Korakuen shows matter. This is our town. This is our building. We need to always make sure that we're doing something special because it's Korakuen Hall, right? And every company,
the bread and butter.
Yeah, every company still runs it. Every company ran it back then. Nothing has changed. And so they would bring big main events to Korakuen Hall. Let's remember, too, at the time that Ukes comes in as the new owner, and you've got some fiscal restraint, and they're keeping expenses low, and touring is going down, so there were more events closer to home. Nevertheless, we move forward. Who didn't like Tanahashi? I'll give you one guess.
See, now I'm thinking, I'm in the headspace of how I'm just thinking of this lovely guy. I was like, who could hate this man? But I'm going to assume Chono.
I didn't say hate.
Oh,
I said didn't like.
Didn't like,
and was public about it. Kenny Omega.
Oh, okay. So I always thought that was a bit.
It may have been embellished, But
I felt like it was to build, because when it was coming out, it was very much Kenny was throwing a lot of shade at a lot of different
well, did you
people.
notice that? Did you notice that that Tanahashi never had a comeback? Never had, and it wasn't so that Omega would be the heel, right?
Yeah.
It was Kenny knew he was leaving, and this was his time to finally get all of this frustration out.
Wow. Okay. So this is completely, yeah. This is new. This is sort
Yeah.
of news to me. Wow. Okay.
The feeling was for Kenny that Tanahashi was a phony, right? And that he was a selfish guy and that he was, he was making sure that he kept the thumb, that he was doing the things that the generations past had done, but Tanahashi was always above it and always like, oh, it's not me. But when the time came, I believe Kenny felt that if there was somebody to put the mouth on somebody, it was going to be Tanahashi, right? And if he put the mouth on you, then you were done. And that's a famous Dennis Corluzzo, putting the mouth on somebody. But so all of that was very inside baseball from those two, but publicly it worked because they were building up to a title match. They were building up to the main event of the Tokyo Dome, the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. And oh, by the way, Kenny was already out the door and was dropping the belt. Probably didn't want, I don't think he wanted to drop it to Tanahashi. If memory serves me correctly, he wanted it to go to Okada or he wanted to do another match with Ibushi. He wanted to do something else, but that was not the case. And I know that the Young Bucks, it's funny, and they were friends with Kenny, so it would make sense that they would sort of have at least some of the same belief. We were gearing up for Okada and Omega, and the Bucks told me and Steve, or was it before then? It may have been before then because I don't think it was Okada and Omega yet. But whatever the main event was going to be, the Bucks
G1
believed.
final.
No, it was the Dome because we were talking
Okay.
about what
Okay.
we were talking about what was going to happen at on the road to Wrestle Kingdom, and the Bucks
Okay.
believed that Tanahashi was somehow, some way going to find a way to get the belt on himself so that Okada won at the Dome or something like that, right? It was some other scenario. And it was the only negative word that I had ever heard about Tanahashi. And it was said sort of like kind of matter of factly, not mean spirited, but boy, it wouldn't shock me if, magically Tanahashi wins. And I was like, oh, okay. And I filed that away because, again, you hear wrestlers say things all the time. And everybody, you could believe one thing, you could believe another. It wasn't said spitefully. It was said more matter of factly. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I
I
can
was
hear
like,
the conversation. I've
yeah. And I
not
was like, oh,
of the
that's good.
level of the Young Bucks, but I've known. I know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even necessarily throw the pro wrestler in it, but the wrestling community
Yes.
does that. It's it is predetermined, so you can weave all sorts of narrative, and the boys are bored. You're traveling long distances, and you
Sure.
need when you have a chat and a gossip, you got to have a bad guy in there.
Oh, I mean, it always makes a good story, but it was fascinating. And so that stuck in my memory bank. And then, of course, Kenny and his
Crew of
well, Kenny's very pointed comments.
Oh, yeah.
Kenny was like, his muscles aren't real, his hair isn't real. But there was some shots fired.
Yeah.
It was definitely some below the belt things. And I think because it was in English, Tanahashi, or I'm sure Tanahashi knew what was being said. Tanahashi's Tanahashi, and deflects it away. So
that
but
for,
here's
for
the
me that feels like that's news. And if I've missed it and because I just assumed it was working when
sure.
Kenny speaks. In my mind, I always think there's an angle, but I've always felt that for me it added something to it. Because
The best elements of realism make a great match. Personal issues draw money. I mean, that's
100%, and
so
that's how I feel it would be, because you can see the seed of truth in it and you can feel it.
yeah.
But
It was never going to be anything but professional,
oh,
right?
absolutely,
That's what
and it
but
was great
again,
as well. It was
well, of
great. It
course,
was
fantastic
fantastic.
match.
Yeah,
But I think in Kenny's mind, it probably wasn't the best match that he was going to have. And again, Kenny always wanted to have the the epic match, the greatest match that everybody has seen, which I see nothing wrong with at all. And Tanahashi being a little more limited at that point. He's not as limited as he is now, but his body was breaking down. He was
it would have
slowing
been
down.
small C conservative
Correct.
match,
Yes.
but he was able to do. He's been able to do a lot more for a lot longer than most have been able to do,
Yes.
because how careful he was, but also what shape he was, and also the fact that he would be willing to do things to his body that just meant that he was resting. Like, he wouldn't work out for a period of time and let his body heal. And you would always hear that he would have this awful injury in May, June time. Will he make it to the G1? And you felt it because he would portray it and he'd do it. But what I think what you would say about Tanahashi is this incredible level of professionalism in and out of the ring that culminated in probably having a little bit more. What Kenny did was add a little bit more spice to it.
Right. And of
And
course, what Kenny would want, again, you have the match with Okada. How are you going to top it?
you
Well,
and you can't chase
he wanted to have the opponent that he could top it with. Of course, it's human nature. I want to do better than I've done before.
Yeah, yeah.
And it it's it, but again, the elements of realism from Kenny's point of view added to the pre-match publicity. So while it was always going to be professional, there was some tense words that were exchanged, and they were never buddies who were going to go out for a meal. They just didn't see eye to eye professionally. I think that Tanahashi felt that Kenny's style was not the style that is duplicatable, meant for a long term, should be displayed. And I know that Tanahashi has been a proponent of, and he said it publicly, this standing and trading and smashing each other, and what is that?
The table spots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just okay. What are we doing? And when he wrestled Kenta in that no disqualification match at the Dome, that's exactly what we said he was going to say if he won. And lo and behold, that's exactly what Tanahashi said. I'm embarrassed to have had this kind of match. I don't think this is professional wrestling. And I'm sorry that I was in it. And I'm sorry that Kenta got hurt. And I'm sorry that everybody had to see this. Because that's how Tanahashi really feels. But he's always a professional and is always able to do business, even though the circumstances he may not necessarily agree with. And he doesn't come out with boo-boo face. He doesn't come out with, whatever. Whatever the story is going to be, he does it to the best of his ability.
And I think
that
that's one of the great things about him. Yeah.
I just want to put just a punctuation mark on this. To me, Joel, that's what makes him the perfect president of New Japan, is because he has dealt with all of the infighting and the disagreements and the push and the pull, and he rose above it, and he didn't lower himself to make outspoken comments, but he'll speak to a style, and he'll speak without individually naming anybody. He will say what his preference of wrestling is, and he'll take ownership for things that he doesn't agree with. He says, I'm sorry that I was in this. I'm sorry that Kenta got hurt. I believe that this is not what professional wrestling is. And that's great. That's all perfect. And that's all ownership. When Tanahashi says with credibility, I'm going to help make changes in New Japan Pro Wrestling, you can believe it. Now, it may not be tomorrow, but he's working towards making it happen, like having Okada return to wrestle.
Yes,
at
and that's
WrestleMania.
something that we'll talk about in the future, because a lot of what people are talking about and reporting hasn't been particularly accurate. A lot of people have put two and two together and come out with 10. Like, it's, yes, on paper that makes sense, but there are things behind the scenes, and Tanahashi's presidency, you know, is a way of smoothing a lot of very coarse environment behind the scenes together. And I wonder what you think. You know, I think we've sort of said why we think Tanahashi's, you know, great guy, why he should be the head of this sort of company and the face of it, albeit from a business standpoint and not from a in the ring standpoint. What could you see someone like a Tanahashi doing with this new role, and now that he's not an in-ring talent as of, you know, January 5th?
Well, I think obviously there's going to be conversation, and I'm sure he has already had it with medical professionals. If we heard a story that Tanahashi is going to have knee replacement, wouldn't shock me. Hip replacement, wouldn't shock me. And I think we are going to see a different physical form of Tanahashi. I don't think he will be a bit of a carny worker that Keiji Muto is, you know, who needs the wheelchair to get from the car all the way to ringside, but then when the show is over, he can pop out of the chair like nothing and walk out to go get out of the building first. Just saying. And I was there for that. I saw it. And I was like, oh, look, Keiji Muto. Magic. He's fine.
Don Callis made notes for
that
his
was the
run.
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, the day that we record this is the anniversary of the day where a neck brace wearing Don Callis was wheeled by yours truly in a wheelchair at the airport in Fukuoka. So anyway,
the Good Samaritan, Kevin Kelly.
You got to do what you got to do. Anyway,
yeah.
So I think what we will see, we're going to continue to see Tanahashi at events, but not all events, because I have a feeling, because he's done a lot of commentary, and that TVSI is going to want him to do commentary, particularly on bigger matches. So Tanahashi will be not ever present, but omnipresent. And I would expect to not. Is there a scenario, a situation where he would go back on his word and actually wrestle in a match? The answer is no. And
I've thought about that, and it would only be if a certain series of people would ask him. I think if Muta asked him, but even then, he is kind of a very honourable man by the looks of it and what you read,
and he can politely say no.
Yeah, but I think he's also going to be someone that is going to try and protect sort of the booking situation, because I feel like there was a period of time where there was some. There may still be. We don't know, because obviously you're not there, and I'm despite the fact that my background is the Tokyo Dome, I'm also not there. Like, it's it's very much it is very much just a background gif. It's not real, guys.
What do
I'm
you mean
afraid
you're
I'm not
not
in
really
Tokyo.
there? Don't I see you over there at Steak and Shake and Taco Bell? Aren't you there at the Giants store? No?
No, I got Concord back, and I came came
By the
back.
way, and one of the great treats of staying at the Tokyo Dome Hotel or the events at Corcoran Hall over the last few years, where you see the people mingling, just and sort of behind the tree. Let's say for those of you who are watching on YouTube, not listening on the podcast, it's in that vicinity. That's where we get to enjoy Steak and Shake and Taco Bell, and that's where Alex Zane would frequent. So anyway,
And
just to,
the Bucks would also do TGI Fridays that go
now
for
Fridays, okay. So what you have to do to get to Fridays is you have to go to the left side of Tokyo Dome in between, and there is a staircase downward that takes you to the same level of the ticket office of Korakuen, and that is where the TGI Fridays is located. Again, nobody does Japanese food quite like TGI Fridays. When in
yes,
Japan, always,
yes.
always eat at Fridays. Um, but I think what we're going to see, and we're going to hold off on talking about Okada because we got to do an actual preview of their match for Wrestle Kingdom, and we'll talk about the whole backstory of what led to Okada's departure from New Japan Pro Wrestling. It wasn't the money. You know what I mean? When they say it's not about the money, it's always about the money. Well, this is one case where it was not about the money.
It's always about two things. It's money or personality, and they say the personal bit, it sometimes can be a lot stronger than the money. You can take money from people, but you can make the money back in theory.
Yes,
But if you take some pride away, or you say some things, it's harder to take it back
right.
because it's been said. And
And
I
we'll
think
talk about who says that, and I think that might be where Tanahashi, where he will do his best work. Joel, is that he will insulate the talent and the booking team. Those are in charge of the matchmaking. He will insulate them from outside forces of ownership, which has been, uh, again,
turbulent.
it's been more turbulent than we have seen. And when we talk about ownership, we're going to talk about presidency as well, because we have to talk about your favorite, your all-time favorite, the guy that you love,
It's also my favorite month.
the greatest,
Our good friend May
the greatest, the greatest president in the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Harold May.
and his good friend Mr. Craven.
Oy vey. We'll talk about those two.
I Gavolt,
Oy
as they
Gavalto.
say in the
We will
yeah.
talk about those two. But it involves Okada. And that Okada's departure from New Japan Pro Wrestling didn't just happen one day where Tony Khan called him up and said, "Hey, your
How would you like to
contract's
make some money?
how'd you
Yeah,
like to make some money? Here's a contract offer." Oh, no, 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 no. This went back years. I was there for all of it. I heard a lot of it. And I was not surprised at all that Okada left. And I pointed the finger of blame exactly where it needed to be. And Tanahashi can now really put himself in the position, and he already has. He already has, because we can see it. You got to stop this. I'm going to be the buffer because I've seen every game that has been played in New Japan Pro Wrestling and in Japan Wrestling. I've seen
and
it
we've
all.
talked about it.
Yeah.
The Fujinami, the Chono, the all everything. Tanahashi has seen it all and been there, and he has smoothed a lot of relationships over.
Yeah.
But I also want to say that I didn't know this until Kevin left the company, because this was such a it was very secret. It was a bit taboo. No one really. I don't think there was ever any leak about it. So hopefully this will be news to you, dear listener and watcher of Strong Style Stories, because it it will shock you just how much things were going on in the background, because people come and go, and sometimes we just assume it's for money, it's for this, that, the other, but in reality, it could be for many reasons, and Kevin is the fountain of knowledge for some of it, because he's also had the brunt of it. But I do
And
want to reveal one thing, though, out
uh-oh.
of respect. Out of respect, I have the Go Ace guitar chords T-shirt of Tanahashi. I felt bad buying a Tanahashi T-shirt, being the Chaos guy. Kevin is revealing the next stage in near future Go Ace Tanahashi. He has a flag that he's put up behind him, which is brilliant. But I was hoping that you may have the sweat towels, because Kevin, you haven't aged. You've always looked like an old potato, so you haven't actually aged. You haven't aged
There
for
is
at least
no
20 years.
there is no Tanahashi sweat on this towel. This was purchased. I forget where I purchased it, but I bought it at the stand outside one of the shows.
You bought the knockoff one.
No, I think I
You bought
might
the
have bought
reprint
it.
outside the venue.
No, 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 no. I think I might have bought it at Ota. I think I did. Or maybe I bought it at the G1. I think it was at. I'll think about it, and I'll try to
Yeah,
remember. It may
and
have
we'll
been it may have been at Budokan, because we were there a couple of days in a row, and there's less setup, less prep. When you're coming back to a
because it's
building for a
yeah,
second day.
and also it is. Oh, what would it have been? Because I remember there was like an event 3 days in a row at Budokan Hall.
Yeah, that was the last time. That was when Kota Ibushi won his first. That was in
Was that
19.
before they were going to tear it down for they were doing something for it for the Olympics?
It
Am I
was it.
remembering that right?
You remember it correctly, right? Yes, it was
Yeah.
right after the G1 final that the building
Yes.
was
Yeah.
shuttered and prepped for a year's worth of work to do the Olympics that nobody was able to attend because of COVID. But
Yeah.
the building
But
was
the
the
renovations
yeah.
it needed to happen. I know a few people that went to go see sumo there, and they said this is not fun. But then they went there in June, so it's their own fault, I guess.
Oh, it's
Um,
ghastly hot. People were okay. So, and here was just an example of if you take Kenny Omega's side of things. Omega and Ibushi sold it out. Sold that some bitch slap dab out.
super no vacancy.
Third level, people, it was so hot outside that as the heat is, the people were passing out up on the third level.
No aircon as well. Yeah.
No, well, there was, but it's down low. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that's
why you pay for premium.
exactly. So people are passing out, people are needing stretchered out. And the next day, um, Okada and Tanahashi wrap up their block with no, it was 18. It was 18 because it was Tana's last. So it was 2018. Then
Is that the draw?
2019,
No, no.
Tanahashi Okada 30-minute draw, and then it was Tanahashi Ibushi in the finals, and Tanahashi wins. Katsuyori Shibata has Tanahashi on his shoulders. He was
Yes.
cornering Tanahashi and helping him. That was the one where Tanahashi manifested the chip on his shoulder, saying, "There are people saying I'm too old. There are people saying that I can't do this anymore. Well, I am going to prove those doubters wrong." The only person that was saying it was Tanahashi. And it was a way to motivate him that was brilliant. And it was a theme throughout because it, again, hey, I'm feeling good, but there are people who say I can't do this anymore. We'll see how far it goes. Then you lose a
Yeah.
couple in the middle and you start to say, well, maybe they're right. Then you
Yeah.
make
I
then you make the
remember,
comeback, win the block, and you can go, aha, see?
and I remember that because when it was a surprise that Shibata came out to second him, because I remember that he came out and you hear the oh, like it was like this domino effect of noise as Shibata came out in probably a towel and a black and something
Yeah,
black.
he just had the towel over his shoulder, black shorts, black t-shirt.
Yeah, and he came out and he was there cornering him, and I went, this is really, it felt surreal for a little bit, and then once you got into that match,
right, because you knew that Kenny was going to corner Ibushi.
yes, exactly, and it felt like you needed, it was so smart because it felt like you got these two outsiders, they're the DDT guys, you know, but they are tied together. They're this super elite team. I'll say pun intended. It's me. There'll always be a pun intended. But on the other side, Tanahashi was like, "Well, I kind of need friends." You know, Liger's on commentary. Liger's on commentary, probably. Who else do you get? You get the baddest man on the planet. Damn it!
You get your third musketeer.
The greatest professional wrestler,
says Joel. Katsuyori Shibata is Joel's favorite. So, again, caveats, whatever. But when you look at long-term storytelling, that's just brilliant.
exactly.
Again,
and that's Gedo, and that is Gedo.
Yes, we started this journey talking about the next generation, the new Three Musketeers, all the pressure that was on them, and how Shinsuke wasn't ready for it, and how Shibata said, this sucks. I'm out of here. I don't want to do this corporate wrestling. And he was gone. Now, he did return to the company, but then he suffered the injuries that, of course, we'll talk about in a future episode, and was away and may never wrestle again. But then when he comes out, oh, man, what a freaking moment. What a freaking moment. I will never, ever, ever forget that. And how about when Ibushi is firing up on Tanahashi and Tanahashi keeps walking forward and he can't stop him. And Ibushi is now like, oh my God, what do I got to do to stop this? There was nothing you could do to stop that young man, because Tanahashi was hell-bent, determined to winning that third G1. I got goosebumps all over my body, Joel, as I start to retell the tale.
And it's King of Sports as well. And that's when you are in a game of sport, that's when the goosebumps come out, because you are in the moment. And that's one of the things that Tanahashi makes you feel in the moment. Right. I went to see him versus Marty Scurll at York Hall, and Bret Hart happened to be there he was in the main event. He was in the corner. I think he was like a timekeeper or something, and I was like, well, this is wild. I've got the guy that I compared to Bret Hart, and Bret Hart in the same place at the same time. And what Tanahashi did was do something that he did something that I then went to every York Hall show from then on. I don't know if I would have done that if it was Marty Scurll versus Manabu Nakanishi.
Right.
The fact that it was Tanahashi, you were like, and it's the last thing that you see because he was in the main event, and you're like, this is incredible. I need to come back to the next one. And I feel that that's what that man's career has been, especially when Gedo took over and took the corporate taste out of everyone's mouth and made it feel like a professional wrestling company again. Look at Nakamura and his presentation. If you see Nakamura against Kurt Angle in, I think, 2008, I think the match was, and then you'll look at, I don't know, Nakamura versus AJ Styles, it's the same person, but you may not believe it. Like, some of the moves are the same, some of the mannerisms, but boy, you need the level of charisma, and Tanahashi is this natural charisma, and he is going to be incredibly missed from the ring, but his presence is going to be felt, and I really hope that they are able to invest in him, especially on the English side, knowing the fact that you've just said that his English is pretty good. If he can do some bits on the English commentary side, it would completely change, because hearing from him carries some gravity to it
Yeah,
because it's
and
Tanahashi.
I think that there's a good way, a smart way, a great way to utilize him on the English side. And um, when you look at all of these matches and all of these moments, all of this history is documented on njpwworld.com. And they have released, Walker Stewart voiced it. I thought it was really well put together. An hour-long retrospective on the career of Hiroshi Tanahashi, some big matches, big moments, and a look at the journey, right?
Yeah,
So,
it was really well cut together as
yeah,
well. I watched the same thing. It was very good.
so that's available, I know, on YouTube, and
Yeah, it's for free, isn't it? It's
it's
on. Yeah.
free. They've just given it away. But I want
Oh boy.
everybody to subscribe to njpwworld.com. In no way do they endorse this show. They're not a sponsor of this show. Neither of us work for New Japan. We are doing this because we know that this is the gateway for you as a fan of pro wrestling who might be stumbling upon this podcast to say, okay, I'm hearing what Kevin and Joel are talking about. I'm interested. How do I find more? Or I've been a fan of New Japan and I've kind of, haven't paid attention to the
Lapsed.
product over the
Yeah,
last few
lapsed
years.
fan.
I'm a Lapsed fan. Where can I find all this? Well, the same place you always could find it, folks, and that is njpwworld.com. You can subscribe now, and you will not miss a second of Wrestle Kingdom, New Year's Dash. You'll see all of that live. It's all included in the price. It's an incredible value, plus the history, the archives, the great matches. You type in
They've
Tanahashi
got
versus,
decades, and they've
forget it.
got the decades, and
Yeah.
you can go all the way back, and you can look, and it's fantastic, and some of it has English commentary. Kevin's voice is going to be forever um, embroiled in some of the greatest matches you'll ever see, and I think it'd be remiss. It would be silly of me not to ask you what's your favorite Tanahashi match
And I
because
talked
you've
about
called
it
them all.
earlier on. It was that G1 final against Kota Ibushi that there was so much drama involved, and when most of the time, especially on the undercard, I paid very little attention to what would be happening. If I wanted to ask, I could find out. And that was one that I definitely avoided any spoilers. I didn't want to know anything. That match took me on a journey as a broadcaster and a fan, and all of the emotion and the drama just culminated in that match for me. It was, yes, the G1 final in 2018 with Tanahashi versus Kota Ibushi is my favorite Tanahashi match. Which one was yours, Joel?
I've thought about it a lot, and I was like, I need to work out which Okada versus Tanahashi was my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I keep coming back to that G1 in the opening night in Texas. I think you were there for it. Was that?
I was.
Yeah, it was in Texas.
Rocky and I called it.
Yeah, and it wasn't their best match, but it was a match that I was like, geez, like they're sharing this with the world now, and I do remember like I got pumped watching it. I was like, oh, this is in the States. This is a G1 in the States, and I was like, for a Japanese broadcast, for a Japanese company to do something that felt risky in taking your big tentpole tournament event and you're sharing it with the rest of the world by going to the rest of the world. You're like, whoa, oh, maybe they'll come to England. And you got Tanahashi Okada at a point where I'm not saying it's their best match. Don't get me wrong, but it's my favorite because it just brought out possibilities in my head. It's a
Mm-hmm.
bit like when I went to Wembley and I saw Punk versus Joe. I never thought I would get to see that. It felt like people that wouldn't get to see Okada Tanahashi got to see it. Yes, it was in Texas and I wasn't anywhere near it. It was it may be further away than Japan is. I haven't worked it out. But it felt like they're now really sharing the experience with the Western audience, and that made it was such a great advert for New Japan Pro Wrestling. But um, he had some bangers with Nakamura, and it's hard to overlook it. But like I said, I've got to stick with my guns. It had to be an Okada match with Tanahashi, and I think they had just the best chemistry, the best good versus evil, money versus pride, and the good guy versus the flashy youngster. It's a story that translated so beautifully, and in many ways, that's something that he does. He's able to translate to anyone in any culture, in like any scenario that you're in. He's an absolute legend, and we'll be talking about him loads on these podcasts.
We sure will.
But man, what a great second episode in, and we're waxing lyrical over the president of New Japan. Is like, we're not trying to get jobs.
No.
Tanahashi-san, we're not. Maybe sponsorship. I would love some merch because Kevin was very lacking in that department. So send me stuff.
Because I had to buy it. Like,
No.
I bought this towel. They didn't give me freebies. I got a tracksuit.
Don told me you stole it.
Don's a liar. Although Don Callis did call, and I thought it was a brilliant comparison. Tanahashi, he said, was like the Von Erichs and the Beatles rolled into one.
Yeah. And
it's like, yeah, wow. Because you had, women that were just like swooning, and the guys thought he was the coolest thing, and it was just, it all worked. It all absolutely worked.
And just a man who is air guitaring and is cool at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a talent. And
sure. He's 12 years. Put it this way: he's 12 years removed, Joel, from being in the Observer Hall of Fame.
Oh, that was 12 years ago.
Yeah, 2013.
That's floored me, because that's made me think, damn, I'm old. But then I looked at you, and then I was fine.
Oh, well, listen. And Tanahashi is not the guy who says, that's not going to work for me, brother.
No, he is all business.
Could he have? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He absolutely could have. But Tanahashi always used his powers for good, because he is Hontai through and through. He's New Japan through and through. And he is the greatest star that we have seen in our lifetime. And his final match is coming up against Kazuchika Okada on January 4th at the Tokyo Dome, a sold-out Tokyo Dome, ladies and gentlemen, sold out weeks in advance to see Tanahashi's last battle. Oh, I cannot wait.
And I have a projector. I have a kitchen wall. I've sent you pictures of me watching pro wrestling from a projector. It is predominantly for the 4th of January to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, to watch Wrestle Kingdom. And I do it, and it makes me feel so. I love this time of year for that reason. Once the projector comes out, I'm a happy boy, and I can't wait to see it. And we are going to review it. There's no point us previewing it. That's not the type of thing that we do. We are very much an evergreen. We want people to find us when they can. So us talking about the Wrestle Kingdom is something that me and Kevin would do privately, and it would be over time and normally through text. So I'm really looking forward to talking to Kevin about it, and that will be in 2026. But as we said, next week, it feels right that we talk about why this match is so big between Tanahashi and Okada, why Okada left, how incredible is it that Okada's come back for this, and why people thought it was made more sense that Nakamura might come back. The sheets, Kevin said.
Oh, those dang sheets.
Said it would be the Nakamura fella that might come back, and I wondered about that often, and I'm really glad that it's Okada. It is going to be such an emotional event, such a great event that we will give our predictions
in the form of tissues as to how many tears Tanahashi will shed. So if it's just he gets a misty eye, that would be one tissue. But if it's a full blown blubbering, Joel, we'll go the full five tissues. We'll
We're not going to
predict.
break the scale. We're not going to go to 5.5 tissues.
Tanahashi may
And
break the scale. He may be.
yeah,
He
they
may
break the tissue
fall
scale,
down.
but we...
Yeah, but we will give our predictions as to what we think the tissues will be for Tanahashi's final. It is going to be an emotional moment, and everybody in the world is going to be watching it or talking about it. And again, not dissimilar from John Cena. It's the end of an era in professional wrestling, and we celebrate it. We look back upon it with fondness and gratitude. And again, the next time I get to see Tanahashi, hopefully it won't be too much longer, but the next time I get to see him, the first thing I'm going to say to him is thank you. Thank you for everything. Because
you're in his DMs. It's fine. You already said thank you, Tanahashi-san.
I will private message him, and whether or not he sees it or responds, he has responded to me before.
Yeah, well, no,
I will message him.
Yeah, and he, but also I was thinking in advance, thinking about episodes that maybe people want to hear. There's one that's gone under the radar. Tiger Mask 4.
Okay,
Kevin, we're gonna have to talk about Tiger. we could go for hours. When do you want to talk about Tiger Mask 4?
Kenny Omega said one time in the locker room, "Look at him. He's got tits."
Tiger tits.
Yep. Tigers.
Tiger tits.
Oh, look at him. God bless him. No, but we can and listen. What is it? strongstylestories@gmail.com. Is that our email address?
It is our email address. And I did actually get another email from a gentleman called Sean Coulthard. Something about a cease and desist, Kevin.
Oh, hey.
Stop using my name.
That's fake news. Stop doing that. How dare you?
No. How dare I? How dare you? No.
How dare us all? All right. Well,
yeah.
that's going to do it. Listen, let me sign us off, please, because you'll drone on and on. But for Joel Yentis, Jolie Genius himself, for our great composer of theme music, yes, the fantastic, the wonderful Ben Casabianca, and for all of you who have tuned in, I want to thank you very much. I'm Kevin Kelly, and this has been another edition of Strong Style Stories. Matane.
Bye.